All right. How is everybody doing today? Today is October 30th, 2025, and I am your host, American Lumberjack, and you are watching Timber Talk, Navigating the Political Force. Thank you guys, as always, so much for joining me, and I have a pretty decent show for you today. Actually, it's more than decent. It's actually good. Every show is good because you're here watching it. So, we are not going to hold you off, but we are going to start opening in prayer because I believe leading with prayer is the way we should lead our nation and to lead our lives. So, dear Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for today. We thank you for this awesome opportunity, Lord, to get into the weeds and find our way through so we can see clearly, Lord, as your Spirit leads us and guides us, God. So I just thank you for your everlasting mercy, grace, and health and strength that you apply upon this body and those that are watching, Lord. I pray blessings over each and every person that is watching and under the sound of my voice. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. All right, guys, let's get into it. We're not going to slack. We're going to hit it hard and hit it fast, and we're going to have a good time. So as always, let's start the show. If I can get this to operate. Always something, isn't it? All right, there we go. So our first story, if it comes up, there we go, is America's strike. America has been going off in the Caribbean, and they're not playing any games with any of these people outside of the United States that wants to play the drug game. So, right into the thick of everything, the U.S. is sending the most advanced aircraft carrier in the United States. And they're sending it to South America because Trump is not playing with these people anymore. He's giving them plenty of chances to get it right, but they want to stay left. And this isn't routine patrolling. It's a strategic escalation. On today's episode, we're going to give you a lot of good information. So sit back, buckle up, and let's have a good time. So the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is the carrier's name, is going to be accompanied with a strike group. So it's not just him flexing his muscle saying, hey, we're coming to play and let you know that we got a bigger ship. It's not a pissing contest or a measuring contest. He's actually sending a team, an actual strike team, that is prepared to put in work and put hands on anyone that is coming across the designated zone that he has set up with drugs. And I'm here for it. I don't think this is overkill. I don't think this is too much, because how many of you, as I've said once before, have lost loved ones due to drug use? Would you rather have them back or allow people to funnel drugs into our country? It is something that you really need to think about, because how many lives are lost every single day due to drugs? It's not bad enough that we have to fight and combat our own homegrown drug system that is set up in the dark. We also have to face it from other regions around the world. Fentanyl from China and many, many other drugs from South America. So the Pentagon states that the mission is to bolster U.S. capacity to defeat and monitor and disrupt illicit actors that are actively trying to compromise America's people with drugs. And they're doing so with impunity. On the surface, a strong posture against, drug trafficking and regional threats sounds good, and it does, but is there a bigger story behind this? Are they using this to do more? And that's what your leftists would try to say. Your Democrats would try to say, what else are they doing behind the scenes? They're not just trying to stop drugs. Well, personally, I believe it's just to stop drugs, but I'm not also obtuse enough not to entertain the thought that something else could be at play here. But for right now, drug traffic from international means has all but stopped. Even China today, when President Trump met with President Xi Jinping, they crack a deal saying that he would try to stop the influx of illegal fentanyl into the United States. This is a beautiful thing. Meanwhile, Nicolas Maduro and his regime in Venezuela are crying that Trump is out of hand. He's doing too much. He's doing all of this stuff. He's trying to hurt us as a country. No, he's trying to stop drugs from entering our country. How many drugs come from the United States to Venezuela? How many drugs from the United States go to Colombia, Brazil, China, all these other places in the world? How many times do you see on the news that we're shipping things to other countries like narcotics? You have opium that has come into the United States. You have had fentanyl that has come into the United States, and many other very hard-hitting drugs. Everybody knows their local meth dealer that probably blew up a couple of houses, but these people are bringing in drugs that drop bodies on the spot. So a hard cutout is, if the deployment is truly just about narcotics, then why is Trump bringing the carrier? That I get that he wants to flex, but the carrier's a little bit excess. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you would know that I've held multiple stories on this particular topic, and we have seen that these strikes are very successful. They just struck a submersible last week, and 2 people died and 2 other people survived, and Trump, as a show of faith, sent those 2 that survived back to their countries. But why the carrier? It seems like overkill. Am I against it? No. But does it make me question things? Yes. And this is not just any type of carrier. This is a nuclear power vessel. So he's got bombs over Baghdad on this particular ship. So it might be a little much, but I agree with it. If it saves more American lives due to drugs, I am here with it. So I can hear the jeers in the back, but he's going to start a war. Venezuela, Colombia, and any other country combined really does not want to go to war with the United States because it will be mutual destruction. Ultimately, though, I would like to ask, what are we risking if defending the homeland blurs into policing another nation? Because that is another point of view that I have had brought towards me from opposition, saying he's really policing other nations. Well, here's my reply. America has been the world's police for as long as I've been alive, and many other people have been alive older than me. So what's the problem now? Why are you worried about America policing other nations now? You wanted America to police Israel when they were genociding the Palestinians, right? But now you're worried about America policing other nations because of drugs. Is it because you do those drugs? Is that why you don't want it to be stopped? It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Ultimately, it's a war on drugs without the declaration of war. And I recall seeing a, I wish I had this video, but I recall a reporter asking Trump, is he going to declare war on drugs? He says, no, I'm just going to bomb them. And then they'll be like dead. That is one of the hardest lines I've ever heard anyone say, because you don't need to go through politics to stop trouble coming to the borders of your nation. That is the job of the federal government. They are deemed with the responsibility of protecting the landmass and its borders. And finally, we have a president that is stepping up and doing something about it. So I'm here for it. I'm also here for his actions against Canada. And this is some cold Canadian steel. So we just talked about the U.S. flexing its muscles down south. Now Trump is shaking things up with a rumble with the North. President Trump isn't just sending cartel to their watery grave. He's also sending a message to Canada. And I don't know if any of you have seen, but Canada decided they wanted to run an ad. Well, Trump swung a 10% tariff, and he swung it hard. And Canada doesn't know what to do with it. And it's not a bluff either. It's a warning that if you continue to, poke and prod at the United States policies, then we're just going to poke and prod at your pocket. Now, a lot of people would say that this is childish and he's like a petulant child getting his get back. No. If you have any other country undermining your nation and what you're doing when you're already fighting a front in your nation, it only serves to make things worse, because he had to set a tone by saying, hey, you can't do this. because you're now hurting us by doing this, and it sets the tone for every other nation that decides to, push a narrative that the United States is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Well, if I recall in another podcast episode, didn't Maduro tell the U.S. military not to listen to Trump? Anybody recall that? Yeah, he said that the U.S. military members should not listen to Trump and do the exact opposite. Well, that got them a tariff placed on them, and now they're belly up. But President Trump's announced earlier this week the 10% increase on the Canadian imports, calling out Ottawa after that World Series ad stunt that they popped off from Ontario that mocked his policies. I get it. It seems crazy. It's like, bro, just let them do what they're doing. They're Canada. If other nations see any ounce of weakness from this administration currently, they are going to go for the throat. And Trump has come in hitting the ground running with a very, very strong presence and letting everybody know, I ain't playing games this time. Daddy's home with the belt, and I heard you've been acting up. We're going to fix it. He started out with the Canada-Mexico U.S. agreement that was violated under Joe Biden. Joe Biden let them violate that for 3 years. And Trump gets back in office. It's like, oh, looks like you've been violating this agreement that we made under my first term, and there was no repercussions. Now there's repercussions. And, Mexico and Canada tried to poke their chest out and seem tough and big like a peacock, and that air got deflated real quick. So Trump's response, enough is enough, is quoted what he said. And frankly, you cannot really blame him for this. For years, Canada smiled across the fence while quietly pocketing trade advantages, and lots of them, hiding behind the diplomatic friendship title as the U.S. industries took the hit. You're paying for everything. You're getting your money, but you're not getting everything, but we're the one that benefit at all times. And then, Trump's next move was he put trade talks with the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, on ice. He put that cold steel to the back of Carney's neck and said, hey, we're just going to hold all trade agreements for the foreseeable future. That means that unless you get in line, you're not getting a piece of the American pie. And now the left and the globalist press are warning, saying that Trump is authoritarian. He's a dictator. You know the narrative. We've heard it. But they're wringing their hands, calling it reckless, saying that Trump is out of pocket. But let's be honest. What's reckless is pretending that the allies of our nation get a free pass to disrespect the leader of the executive branch in our government, the U.S. economy, and mock everybody in the Trump administration. And if you recall, they booed during the national anthem when we played them in hockey. You've never seen the United States do that to the Canadian national anthem. And Americans can be very, very, petty and disagreeable, but they do have some decorum and respect when it comes to those type of things. But Canada seems to be getting too big for their britches, and Trump's like, hey, daddy's home. Let's go ahead and put you in your place, and we're gonna fix this track that we've been on, because it's been bad. It's been really, really, really bad. So it's really him just showing strength. And if Canada or any other country doesn't like it, well, that sounds like a you problem. America's finally standing up for itself and not letting everybody take from it. Because for years, we've allowed every Tom, Dick, and Harry to just suck dry from Uncle Sam's teat while the American people suffer. Because we're the ones that have to really foot the bill. Do you recall when the tariffs from Canadian lumber came in because of the Keystone XL pipeline being shut down? How much did your wood go up? I recall fences doubling and almost tripling in prices. Well, America says no more games. And a part of playing no more games, he's also putting a refined stranglehold on Russia. So if anybody's been paying attention, you would know about this, but we rarely do because America does a really good job, especially with their news media, of getting your serotonin dumped and beating you in the face with what they want you to know about. Well, Russia just felt the vice tighten up around their neck in the war against Ukraine. President Trump has moved beyond the old playbook of diplomacy and playing around with these people, and he's gone straight into economic warfare. And if anyone knows anything about Donald Trump, he is the king of the art of the deal. He's the king of that. And he wrote the book on it, and he executes it daily. So instead of doing war with guns, he's doing war with economy. Because diplomacy has not worked between Ukraine and Russia at all throughout any of this. And we don't even care who's to blame for the start of it anymore, which it was Biden, but I digress. And Trump is basically hitting Moscow where it hurts. He's hitting their oil refineries. And Putin said earlier this week, if he sees that the U.S. is sending any long-range ballistics to Ukraine, then he's going to use his cruise missiles. Well, with a sanction on your refineries that makes it more difficult and more expensive to produce the oil that you need, those cruise missiles might just be grounded because that oil that they are using in those particular refineries are the lifeblood of the cruise missiles. No more. And I'm here for it. And it's going to cut deep because he's not using violence. He's not sending guns. He's not being an international gun smuggler like Victor Bott, who we traded that dude for that played basketball on a female's team, but I digress. He's actually doing stuff the right way. He's not bending the knee and patting the back and handing cash to anyone. He's shutting stuff down. And Putin stood before the cameras and said that Russia would never bow to the United States. We get it, Russia. You got to, man up and beat your chest and let everybody know that you're still Mother Russia. Well, Daddy's home. Yeah. Trump is home. And this is not to go off on this tirade about how great Trump is, because as you know, if you watch me for any extent of time, I do get on his neck as well. But I'm giving him his flowers for doing what a president should be doing. He's doing the right thing. And the truth is that the U.S. isn't taking any more crap. Like I said about, Canada, we're not taking any more crap. Trump just closing the supply. And if you're not getting your supply, then you dry up. This wasn't about politics at all. It wasn't about power. And for the first time, we're seeing in a long time, America is using leverage. There are plenty of presidents that don't get any good press that use leverage to get things done. We're a superpower. Why are we not acting like it? How many times have you ever seen Superman beg and plead and grovel on his knees to get things done? When you're dealing with villains, they're not going to play fair. Though I don't personally think Russia really is a villain, as the news media in the United States portrays them to be. But in this particular instance, yes, they are, because they're bucking up against the United States. So Trump's sanctions strategy isn't a bluff. It's a chokehold, stranglehold, and it's absolutely positively beautiful. But can Putin survive without financial oxygen in his refineries? That's a serious question. And if Russia's economy starts gasping for oxygen, what happens when they're cornered? When you corner the bear? These are real questions you have to ask yourself, because Russia might do something desperate. Though I don't think it's going to be that bad, because it's Ukraine. If you lose to Ukraine, you're going to be the laughingstock of the world. And I'm here for it either way. I'm pro-America, America first all the way. And Trump is actually doing America first actions by not allowing America to become the whipping boy of the world. And I promise this is the last story about Trump. I know I've talked a lot about him, but this is along the same lines of him being on. The man has been on a tirade of doing what he wants to do, how he wants to do. Well, he's at it again, and he's rustled some feathers. This time it's the Bogota. I think that's how you're saying Bogota, whatever. I'm not Spanish. I don't have the Spanish tongue, but I think it's Bogota or something to that effect. The U.S. isn't just watching anymore. It's acting. And President Trump has dropped a sanction on Colombia's president, not the country, but the president and his wife and his inner circle and his kids. The man is king of petty. If he's not king of anything else, he ain't got to be the king of the United States. He's the king of petty. And he does petty better than anyone I have ever seen in my life. And this is coming from someone that is pretty good at petty himself, but he is the king of petty. So the reason why, I bet you're wondering why he did that, is because he proclaims that the president of Colombia is running a drug country. And it is true. And they're not doing anything about it. They're not stopping these people because just like Mexico, with the weak imposter Jew female president they have, they let the cartels run wild. Trinidad, MS-13, all of these gangs run the country. The president just sits there as a figurehead to shake hands with other leaders around the world while the drug cartels do what they want. Well, the U.S. Treasury Department has slapped sanctions on President Gustavo Petro, his wife, his son, his minister of whatever they call it there, and they're just not playing anymore. Because if anybody knows anything about Colombia messes with the cocoa bean and all that other stuff in the cocoa plant. You get cocaine, and they have just let it flow. Let's look at it like this. We know for a fact that drugs make money. We know that if a country can capitalize off of those drugs, they will. The United States has done it in the past and probably still does it now, but they don't make it known. But I digress. Under Trump, they're probably not because they don't want to get caught. But we know Colombia is known for their cocaine and their coffee. Both are drugs, by the way. They're both stimulants, but I digress. They peddle these things, and Trump has been pleading with these people. When he first got into office, he pled with them, stop with the drugs. He told Canada that. He told Mexico that. He told Venezuela that. He told Brazil that. He told Colombia that. Practically all of South America and North America. He said, stop letting drugs come into our country. And if you can't, we'll help you out. Well, the president of Mexico, with her very pompous, pious self, told Trump, no, we don't need your military helping us. We got it. Got what? You suck, lady. You do nothing. Well, I'm not going to, let me retract that. It's not that you don't do anything. You make money. You are the sloot for the cartel. And I'm pretty sure they walk in the middle of you having a meeting, and you got to shut the meeting down because the cartel leaders are here. Very strange. Very, very, very strange. From the conservative angle of this, it's kind of something that brings clarity. For too long, we've treated friendly countries with kid gloves and allowed them to do what they did because we don't want international conflict. Well, your boy put on the Thomas the Hitman Hearns boxing gloves or the Mike Tyson boxing gloves, and they dotted up some faces and dotted up some eyes. And he's saying, stop with the drugs. And it's pretty freaking simple. If you really think about it, just walk with me for a little bit. It's pretty simple. Stop the drugs. Stop getting the hands. Stop the drugs. No more tariffs. Well, not no more completely gone, but you don't get any extra tariffs. Stop the drugs. Get more aid. Stop the drugs. Get more help. It's a fair trade. But Mr. Petro doesn't think so. He thinks that Trump is being mean. You're bombing our drug ships that are coming to your country. You're bombing Venezuela's drug ships that are coming to your country. Yeah, you're right. And we're going to keep bombing them. And eventually the drug dealers will figure it out. Hey, we dying. We ain't made it in there yet. And they've already given the go-ahead to the Coast Guard to let freedom ring. And the Coast Guard has been our saving grace for a lot of these drugs. They've stopped hundreds of thousands of pounds of drugs from entering our country. But now we actually have a president that stands firm on all of it. And he's standing on the necks of world leaders. Do we have the right to sanction sitting foreign presidents? I don't know. I don't care. If the president of Colombia stops selling drugs, because we know he's selling the drugs. We know that because he's making money from it. That's why he hasn't stopped. But if he stops doing that, the problems stop. You want these problems because you keep doing what you're doing. But when our allies act like adversaries, does the label ally mean anything anymore? It was a role. I apply that to them too. I just want to throw that little jab in there because I don't respect them either. I really don't. Our next story is one of my favorite stories, and I probably should save this for last, but we're going to go ahead and get into it because it is beautiful. Kind of. It's the battle for holy matrimony. And the battlefield is now shifting from war on drugs to war on holy matrimony. And when the highest courts of the land consider rewriting what marriage means in America, the stakes go beyond law. They strike at the very culture of what it is to be American. Growing up, all I have ever seen was the American dream. One man, one wife, a couple of giblets, a white picket fence. That is what being American is. Having a cohesive nuclear family. A cohesive nuclear family. 2 men don't make children. 2 women don't make children. Well, we're on the front of the fight for holy matrimony at this point in time, and ask whether the federal government has the right to force all states to abandon a union between one man and one woman. And by abandon, I mean basically say, hey, you got to let people marry. So the Supreme Court of the United States has announced it will be meeting privately. Anytime a group meets privately that holds some semblance of power, you should wonder what's going on. But they're going to meet privately 4 days after or 3 days after your local elections. This is your reminder that if your state is holding local elections, to get out and vote, because it's not just the vote for the president that changes the country, it's the vote at the local election. But they are meeting November 7th to decide whether to hear a challenge to the landmark Obergefell versus Hodges ruling. And that decision made same-sex marriage nationwide. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit and go off script a little bit, but if it's not in the Constitution according to the 10th Amendment, then it goes back to the states. So if a state wants to allow a man and a man or a woman and a woman to marry, it can do that. The federal government has no power to make a decision that's not in the Constitution. Yet, because people have forgotten how to read, how to comprehend, how to live and rule their own lives, they need daddy government to tell them what and how and do to be. They need help. They need a boost uppy into the high chair. Well, why? Why? Every state at one point in time, because I've done my research, and states are now removing the language from their state constitution. All 50 states at one point in time in their constitutions, because there's a federal constitution and a state constitution. So we have 51 major constitutions, and then you have over 650 constitutions from Native American tribes. But 50 state constitutions all said at one point in time, marriage was between a man and a woman. If people want to let, the LGBT people vote, or not vote, but marry, it should not be considered holy matrimony, because anytime the state or any type of government is involved in marriage is for this. You got to pay to get married, and you got to pay to get divorced. And they set all of these rules, regulations, and stipulations because you let them into your marriage. So supporters of traditional marriage argue that the 2015 ruling lacked constitutional grounding. And now they believe that the court has an opening to return to the matter of the states. So it really and truly, because I won't get too deep into this like I want to for time's sake, they need to leave it alone. They need to leave it alone. They need to let it go back to the way it was. And marriage has been getting some attention all 2025 because they are trying to return the right of marriage to the states. And if anybody recalls, it was Barack Obama in his second term to come out and say that marriage should be something that is shared by all the people. Yeah, he was doing that. So he was pro man versus man and woman marriage his first term to get the Christians, the silly Christians that didn't do any of their research, on board behind him, backing him, voting for him. And then the second term is like, yeah, well, now we got to get the LGBT on. More than likely because he's married to a man, but I digress. So now we have this push-pull over marriage. Marriage is a Christian institution. It is a Jewish or Judeo-Christian institution. It is not a institution of any other kind. That's where marriage came from. And marriage, according to the Word of God, has always been between God, man, woman. It is a covenant, making a triangle, and I'm not doing the Illuminati crap, but making a triangle, you on one side, your spouse on the other, and God at the top. And as long as both of you are moving towards God, you're getting closer together. It's a covenant, a contract between your Heavenly Father, not a covenant and contract with the state of Arizona, Michigan, North Carolina, Florida, New York. It's not the state of. When it becomes the state of, it becomes the money of. So they make money off of you hand and fist. They change the tax code policies in Title 26 to suit them. So when you get married, you got to pay taxes differently. You get divorced, you're going to pay even more taxes differently. They play games with your pockets, and they play games with your faith. If you're a Christian, you should be demanding the Supreme Court shut this down. Let it go back to the way it was originally intended. It's a state's issue, not a Supreme Court issue. And if you don't want to marry someone or file someone's marriage license because you don't believe in it, if that person's working for a government entity, fire them. Fire them. Because they're not doing their job. But don't have the federal government force them to do something that they don't believe in. Because when you force someone to do something that they don't believe in, it becomes illegal. When it becomes illegal, they can go to jail. It really is a travesty. It's a travesty. Yes, the 13th Amendment was a state's issue as well. And we saw what the federal government did with that. Anytime the federal government takes the power from the people and gives it to themselves, you bet your bottom dollar that they're going to make liberties of it and abuse it and make money off of it. But the court's upcoming decision isn't just about precedents. It's about our identity as a nation, our values, and who holds the power to define marriage. As I see it, not as I see it, as the truth sees it, only God holds the power to define marriage. If you want to go have your civil unions, civil partnerships, if you want to get benefits and tax and all this power of attorney crap, do that without the title of holy matrimony. I've never seen in my life so many atheists and LGBT members who don't believe in God, don't worship, go to a church to get married. Go to a Christian institution and tell that Christian institution, hey, make a cake or cupcakes or flower arrangements for us. And they get told no, and now we're suing you. we're suing you. And people lose their whole livelihoods and homes behind being sued over people that want to invade on what's theirs. You're not a Christian, so marriage isn't for you. If you want government benefits, just tell daddy government you want benefits and sign some paperwork with the government. Make a contract with the government, because that's what you're really doing anyway. It's basic common sense, but apparently sense isn't common. Our next story here is a follow-up from my special. If you haven't caught my special on Epstein, you should probably go catch that special. It's labeled the Epstein special on here. But you should really catch it because it's a good special, and I give you a ton of information that you can take to the bank. Get it? Take to the bank. Now, two giant U.S. banks, Bank of America and Bank of New York, Mellon, BNY for short, for those New Yorkers, are being sued. And they're being accused of enabling Epstein's sex trafficking enterprise by processing suspect transactions and turning a blind eye to red flags. 2024, 2025, they've been all about the red flags. You see the red flags. Where are the red flags? He's a red flag. She's a red flag. They got all these red flags. Well, you have banking institutions that do all the red flags. They do them. They create them. They are them. But in October of this year, survivors of Jeffrey Epstein filed lawsuits alleging that the Bank of America and the BNY Mellon provided financial services that facilitated Epstein's abuse network. But my problem here is, if any of you did catch the Epstein special that I did, my problem with this is JP Morgan and Chase paid off those same people, right? Which is a bank. It's one of the world's largest banks. They paid those people off to hush-hush about the Epstein stuff. And now some of these same people are suing Bank of America and BNY. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people disappeared or met with an unfortunate end. I won't get too deep into the thoughts that I'm having about the unfortunate end that they're going to meet Hillary Clinton, but I digress. The Bank of America suit claims that one victim has been directed by Epstein's accountant to open up an account there, and the funds were routed through that bank, Bank of America, for rent and payments tied to her abuse. The BNY suit alleges that the bank processed roughly $378 million in payments to victims tied to Epstein's trafficking ring. That might be more than what JP Morgan and Chase paid out. Dang, that's crazy. And they did not flag the transactions as suspicious. That's why the bank is on the alleged hook, because they didn't flag these things as problems. You see, it's just a bunch of money coming through. Whose name's on that file? Okay, Jeffrey, let it go. That's exactly what happens. We know what happens behind closed doors. When you hire a lawyer and they say, oh, just waive your right to come to court, we'll take care of it for you. All you're going to do is just go pat the back of the judge, and the judge is going to pat your back, and you're going to come out with the outcome for the person at hand. Same thing with these banks. These things are not small errors that they're going to. And they're alleged system-wide failures, and the compliance of these companies are failures on their ethical means that they have written in their bylaws. So if I worked for one of these companies and I failed to be ethical, I would be fired. But if they do the same thing and are unethical, they brush it under the rug. Where is the EEOC and all of these other government agencies that police this type of stuff? What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm being serious. This is what happens when big bank elites treat rules as suggestions, and then they abuse those rules and abuse vulnerable people, and it just becomes another tagline in a newspaper article that doesn't get read. This is why I bring this story to you, because you need to know about it. It's something you need to know about, because this is happening every single day, not just with Jeffrey Epstein, But we just found out a couple of weeks back, 3 weeks back, that there was another duo in New York doing the same thing, abusing women, trafficking those women, making money off of these women. And little Epstein, basically. And these people did get held accountable, thank God. But how many more go held unaccountable? How many more go out and do what they want to do, get looked at, and nobody says a word to them? So the complaint for this is loud and clear. If the banks knew or should have known about the related abuse transfers that helped keep these people under the subjection of the machine of assault by the Epstein empire, then they need to be held accountable. And how many times has Bank of America been in lawsuits for breaking their own code of ethics? Multiple times. So the integrity of America's financial system is at stake, as they would say, but it's really not. The system is set up to treat the system, and it does so very well. If the banks knowingly processed payments for traffickers, what does that say about who rules the forest? Not just because you get it. Banks have branches, trees have branches. I digress. It was a dad joke, and I hate dad jokes. I'm terrible at them. But seriously, in all seriousness, who rules this particular area? It's not just the predators in the mansions, but it's the facilitators in suits. You get these people that, and it's no different than politics. It's like, hey, this person has a lot of money. We want to treat them right. We want to make sure we keep them happy, because if they take all their money out of our institution, it's going to hurt us. So we're going to do everything we can to treat them right. And then they wine and dine these people, and then those people turn around and wine and dine them. Now they got their hooks in them, and it's a quid pro quo. You let this slide, I give you an extra yearly, what do you call those things when they give them a bonus, a yearly bonus, but it comes from outside of the organization. And now your branch manager is driving a Maserati. Mr. John, how'd you get this Maserati? Your income is only $150,000 a year. That's a $2 million car. How are you affording that? Well, little Epstein slipped him a couple of million. That was his bonus for letting all of these transactions slide like bases. But there's no theft there. They're just doing what they do. They're hiding it. But when financial giants enable, a pipeline of abuse, do we let them hide behind we followed procedures, or do we demand accountability? I demand accountability. And this lawsuit shouldn't go unseen, unheard. It shouldn't go by the way of the wind. It should be something that is held on the necks, like George Floyd, of these two banks. Choke them out. We do not need these institutions. It's all a fiat system anyway. Where's our gold, government, that you took in the 30s? Give us our gold back. Let us barter and trade. Shut these banking systems down. Then if you do that, then you don't have to worry about allowing people to be raped and trafficked. Seriously, are we willing to just believe that these corporations, because that's what they really are just innocent, and they made a clerical error? They hit one less zero than they should have. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. They must think we're stupid. Well, some people in America are very stupid. Definitionally so. Not an insult. But it becomes an insult if you think it's an insult. And if that's the case, lace that shoe up and wear it. I can't do anything for you. Our last story is a story that is something that hits near and dear to me, because I am not a friend or fan of illegals. Yet, for some reason, we're still plagued by them, though Trump, and this story is not about Trump, I promise, has been doing an excellent job at shutting the crap down. Well, here's your CD illegals, or CDLs, for those that don't understand. Two of these particular ethnicities two people from this particular ethnicities has killed 6 people in the United States, and they got their license from the West Coast, i.e., Washington State or California. Well, what happens when the lifeblood of America and its transport system is driven by people behind the wheel who shouldn't be there? Well, something's finally being done about it. And it didn't take long. It should have happened the first time when Mr. Singh, by the way, I think they all have the same last name. Mr. Singh in Florida, it should have happened when he killed somebody. Because right before that, there was a gentleman from the Ukraine that was driving that shouldn't have been driving because he wasn't illegal as well. But somehow he had CDLs. So the U.S. Department of Transportation says that the state of California has been issuing commercial driver's license, CDLs for short, to non-citizens who don't qualify. First off, Mr. Department of Transportation, let's zoom in with me, talk with me. They're illegal. They don't qualify at all anywhere. What are we talking about? They're illegal. They don't qualify, period. And now, thankfully, you are doing a little something, and you got these people on the chopping block, aka California, you better watch your neck. They are threatening to strip away California's ability to issue CDLs altogether, and with it, a $160 million federal funding could just go out the window. But that's going to happen first. And if California doesn't seemingly fix this problem of just handing out license like they hand out, that food stamp card, if they don't stop that, then you're just going to lose the ability to issue CDLs altogether. And that would absolutely, positively cripple the trucking industry out of California. Being that it is one of our largest states in the country, it would absolutely destroy the economy worse than it already is in California. By the way, Gavin Newsom, you govern the worst economy in the United States as far as states go. Just because you have an economy of all that kind of money, your debt is worse. People always talk about the positive and never the negative in the same picture. But California is under fire for allegedly issuing tens of thousands, not hundreds, not thousands, but tens of thousands CDLs to drivers who are non-citizens. And I've researched this from other articles, and these people, most of these people's IDs don't even have names on them. They don't even have names on them. It's literally just a license with a picture, information for the state and birthday and stuff, but there's no names. So there's a federal audit that claims that in California alone, more than 25% of non-domiciled CDLs, non-domicile means not living in California, non-domiciled CDLs have been reviewed and were improperly issued, some license valid even after the driver's legal presence has expired. So they're pushing the ideology of you can be illegal and still work here. Your visas could have expired and you still work here. But what are you going to do, Mr. Issuer of said CDL, when these people kill people? Crash statistics, regulatory failures, and direct line between weak licensing enforcement and risk of highways are all coming out of this state. It's already bad enough that you get grandma who's 90 years old still driving and she can't see over the steering wheel and she's just driving down the side of the road, side swiping all the cars that are parked. It's not bad enough that you let those people keep their license, but you're now giving people 80,000-pound bullets to drive around. Sometimes they're on drugs. Sometimes they make illegal turns. Sometimes they drive down the opposite direction of the freeway and have to be stopped by other truck drivers to prevent them from continuing to commit a felony and take lives. Like I presented last week, could you imagine you're in on the freeway minding your own business, listens to some music, maybe on a speakerphone call to your loved one, and boom, dead. Could you imagine being on the other end of a family member that gets killed by an illegal who doesn't know whether they're coming or going? Really and truly, it's just sad. But Secretary Sean Duffy is saying that if California doesn't comply, then they're going to lose everything. Everything. Can you imagine 25% of the license issued out of California aren't valid? 25%. I would love to see the statistic of them auditing how many of those licenses of just regular vehicle drivers, Class C drivers, how many of those are invalid? Heck, in the state of Arizona, you have to have multiple car insurances for an uninsured driver. Most people say, oh, well, that's normal. That's right. No, it's because of illegals are driving there. And they'll hit you and run. So you're buying your own insurance, and you got to buy insurance to cover them lacking insurance. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. Is this what America's about now? How many more people have to die behind corrupt, crooked governance of states, all because they can make a little extra money, all because the trucking company manager slipped some, or CEO slipped some money to somebody in the Department of Transportation within the state? Go ahead and let these 15 illegals get their license. I can tell you what, God forbid if I ever lose a loved one to someone illegally driving. It's bad enough if someone that was legal did it. God forbid if it's someone that is illegally driving. The wheels of justice are starting to move in the right direction finally. And this isn't just a fight on the interstate highways. It's entering the halls of power. The governors of each of these blue states aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They're not. And then when someone in a red state does something, oh, you're a bad person, you're a Trump supporter. Bro, we're trying to protect our citizens, not let them be killed off. Anyway, our Bible verse for today is be careful for nothing. Let me stop this right here. Be careful for nothing, but in everything in prayer or by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. That's Philippians 4, verse 6 through 7. As always, guys, it's a pleasure. Thank you for showing up week in and week out and giving me your attention and your time. I appreciate it. But make sure you're not one of the ones who can't see the forest for the trees. See you next week.